Hey singers, welcome back to the weekly warm-up. I'm Laura. Here on the channel, I love to share clear, fun voice education to help you improve your singing and enjoy it more. Now today we're going to talk about practicing because I don't think it will come as a surprise to any of you that if you actually want to improve your singing, you are going to have to practice. But that is easier said than done. Many of us think that the only challenge when it comes to practicing is just making the time to do it. And yes, that is hard. But there's also a large problem, which is not knowing what to do when you get into the practice room. Many singers, many singers actually just conflate the ideas of music learning and singing practice. And I want to tell you, if you take nothing else away from today's video, please understand this. Music learning and practicing your singing for improvement are not the same thing. They're not mutually exclusive, but learning the notes and rhythms is only part of the work of practicing. In practicing, what you really want to be doing is kind of approaching it like problem solving. You want to be tackling the things that don't work in those notes and rhythms, not only musically, but also vocally. You want to improve the way that you actually sing so that not only does that music sound better, it's correct and also aesthetically pleasing and feels comfortable and sustainable, but also when you build those skills by problem solving, you are also investing in your future singing. So what we really want to do when we practice is both to solve the immediate problems of learning your music and making it more vocally comfortable and successful and beautiful, but also building the skills that are going to kind of raise the water level in the long term so that your singing gets better and better and better. So in order to do that, today I'm going to show you my practice planning system. And it feels kind of crazy to even call it a system because it is so simple. There are just 4 simple steps to the planning, and then I will also explain to you how I actually execute it when I get into the practice room so that I'm not having to design a big fancy schedule about Monday I'll do this, Tuesday I'll do this. But in fact, if I just follow this protocol, every time I go into the practice room, I can really be efficient, fast, and really effective in terms of that immediate kind of problem solving and long-term improvement. So I'm going to jump over into like a presentation view so that you can see the steps of the process. And then I'm also going to just show you how I do the process in real time. So let's hop over there. Hello, I'm over here now. So let's go ahead and begin the 4 steps of this practice planning procedure by listing the repertoire that you're going to be working on, either in the short term or the long term. And I will talk about that a little more as I make my own plan. But you want to just list all the music that you're going to be working on. Then as you go, I want you to make note of any issues or problems that come up with that repertoire. So the problem could be as simple as, I don't know how this music goes. That's a music learning issue. Make note of that. But there are also all the other problems, and these are the ones that I want to make sure you're tackling as well. Things like, I can't get my voice to move this fast, or the range of this feels uncomfortable. Make a note of that. Then our 3rd step is going to be that from that list of problems, we are going to make a list of the skills that we would need to resolve those problems. So we kind of list the problems and then we list the solutions, the skills that we would have to improve in our own singing, musicianship, vocalism to make those problems go away. And then finally, the last step is that to help us do that, we are going to design a warm-up routine. And this does not need to be fancy. You'll see that when I do my own process, I think I ended up with 2, maybe 3 warm-ups. But you're going to plan them specifically. You're not going to just rely on something that you did in high school and you've been doing ever since. You're going to be really strategic here about choosing warm-ups that will use and enhance and build those specific skills to tackle those specific problems, and then you can get into the practice room. Okay, here I am in my overhead format. I thought it would sort of look more like a planner video if I had a coffee and a candle. So here we are, and all you need is a piece of paper. So we're gonna start out by separating it into 2 columns and then make 2 small sections across the bottom. And the first thing we're gonna do is label these areas short term and long term. And I'm going to be listing all the repertoire that I'm working on here. So first I'm going to start with short term, and there's no specific time limit on this. I just want to list music that is like currently in rehearsal or like in preparation. So if your spring concert is 8 weeks away and you're starting to rehearse it, that can be listed here. My recommendation would be that you not list whole pieces. So I am going to be doing the Beethoven Missa Solemnis soon. And rather than just listing that, I'm going to list out the individual movements because, as you know, they're not all of equal difficulty. And I will also say that as I go through, I'm going to make a special note of anything that is a particular challenge or I know needs work. So there is one note thing that's weird here. And then this is very high and sustained. And this is very high. So I've got a lot of like high notes that I need to get in order here. And then there are also 2 anthems. And this one I know very well. This one I think has a solo section in the middle that may or may not be hard, but I'd rather have a look over it before I show up just in case I end up having to sing that. So this is the stuff that I'm actively rehearsing and that sort of needs to be triaged soon. It may be that your list is twice this long, or it may be very short, or you may have nothing at all in this column, and that's completely fine. But as we move to long term, I want to make sure that here you do have something in this column. And this could be repertoire that is just not started rehearsing yet, that's coming up ahead. But let's also think a little bit broader in terms of what could go in here. So this would be a great place to put, for example, let's say that there's a certain piece that you do every single year at the fall festival or at a specific church service or whatever. So you know it's coming, even though it's not like explicitly happening right now. You can list that here. You can list, as I said, projects that are farther out, which is what I'm going to be listing here. This is also, though, a great place to list things that you've always wanted to sing, bucket list pieces, or maybe if you're thinking, it would be really great to audition for a new group in the fall. I'd like to find an audition piece. List that here. This long-term section is really a great place to get creative and kind of think a little broader in terms of what your singing might be in the future. So here, I'm just gonna speed this up so I can list some repertoire that I have upcoming. Okay, so I could go on and on, but this is kind of all I really need for today in order to be able to feel like I can practice, plan my practice for this week. So at this point, I'm going to start looking at what are the common points among all of these trouble spots, because it is time for me to fill in this box, which is skills. And here, when I look through this, there will be some things where I just need to learn notes. That's kind of a separate issue, but I can definitely see here that there is a real common issue, which is that I've got a lot of repertoire, both short and long term, that is high, and I need to feel more comfortable in it. So high range is definitely something that I need to become more comfortable with. It is a skill that I need to build to be more successful in the short and in the long term. I would also put here, sustaining in the high, so like staying up there. And then this is kind of an interesting thing. So this piece is in a meter, 10/16. It's 2 groups of 5/16 notes per bar. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's interesting, when we've tried to put this together with piano, it's very hard for me to not fall into groups of 6 instead of 5, because 6 is more common. So it's, again, something like a skill that I need to work on to be more successful. So now that I have looked through all of that, I am going to come over here, and this is where I'm going to plan my warm-up. And this is really where the magic happens, is now I know the repertoire I'm dealing with, I know the skills that I need to cultivate. And so, given all of the hundreds of exercise videos that I have made targeting different ideas of technique, I need to find some exercises that are going to help me get comfortable up here in the high range and sustaining up there. And so what that tells me is I need exercises that not only help me I do need to do scalar work that like modulates up and sing up into the high range, but I need to do it in a way that's going to allow me to access more head voice and kind of let down the ballast of chest voice. So I need a headier approach into the top of the voice. And luckily, I have an exercise that I recently made a video about that really helps me to do that. UE scales. I will put a card and link it below in the description box, but this is a great exercise that really helps me to find a headier position as I move up and then not add weight as I come back down. And so that's gonna help me in handling all of this really high range stuff. I also think that if I'm going to be doing a lot of sustaining work and if I need to be doing some note learning, I'm gonna wanna do some SOVT buzzing, which is any of those like humming, lip trill, bubbling in water kind of things. That will help me too because it's a non-fatiguing way to sing up into the high range and also a non-fatiguing or non-bad habit building way of working on like challenging note stuff. So I'm gonna make sure I use UE scales and SOVT buzzing when I am doing my warm-ups. And then the other thing that I might add is once in a while, I might do scales in 10/16. So an example of that might be, just kind of off the top of my head, I could do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. Or okay, so now we have that great plan, and I'm just going to talk to you about how to put it into effect when you get into the practice room. So we're going to always begin our practice session with those warm-ups, and I like to just mentally remind myself, I am using this exercise to work on X problem. That is going to help me to really focus on kind of where my attention needs to go. Then after the warm-up is over, I am going to work essentially in a triage system. I am going to first address the things in the short-term column that have problem notes with them. So I'm not going to just start at the first thing that I listed unless that's a place that has a problem in it. I'm only going to start out by working on the things that are problems. Now, if the problem is a music learning problem, I like to address those using an SOVT exercise. And I think I talk about this briefly in my own plan, but I just want to explain a little more thoroughly what I mean by that. We all know that when we are sight reading, we often use our very worst technique. And I don't want you to undo the technical benefit you just gave yourself in that dedicated warm-up. So if you are going to have to do some problem solving by music learning, I would recommend that you use an SOVT exercise, like a lip trill, like a raspberry buzz, like bubbling into water, something like that, even humming, to learn your notes and rhythms. That is going to really, really help to reduce the bad habit forming and the vocal wear and tear that you're going to be doing while music learning. But if music learning is not one of your problem areas in your short-term repertoire, then just address those problem areas. Work on those picky intervals or work on approaching those high notes. Whatever your problems were, start with those. Now, it is very likely that addressing the problem areas is going to take up all the practice time that you have in a day or in a week. That often happens to me, and it is not a disappointment. Don't think that it's going to be a failure if that's the only thing you get to, because that means that in your practice time, you used it well and you addressed the most important, most urgent needs. But if you do have more time, then I would approach either reviewing the short-term repertoire that is not a problem, or addressing problems in the long-term repertoire, or reviewing long-term repertoire. So I would kind of do them in that order because they're sort of moving on to less and less urgency. So now you have not only your plan, but also your kind of attack plan on the day itself. Warm up, Attack the problems first, starting with short-term repertoire, and then if you have extra time, you can do review or long-term repertoire. So singers, I've created a little PDF. It's just a template that you can use if you don't even want to go to the trouble of drawing those 2 lines. And it'll also have a reminder of the steps to take for planning and the steps to take for practicing once you get into the practice room. Now, I invite you, check out all the videos that I have here on the channel that will give you so many inspirational ideas for exercises that you can do to really address those needed skills. In the meanwhile, I hope that this video was useful for you. I hope that you'll give it a like, a thumbs up. I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel so that we can sing together again next week. And in the meanwhile, if you cannot wait that long, I hope that you'll sign up for the weekly newsletter that comes to your inbox every Friday. There's a link down in the description box. And thank you for practicing.